Well, welcome everyone to the last Friday in May of 2024, Friday the 31st of May. I am Delbridge, Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and this is your status chat. Coming from the rehab center in the Hollow. I know it looks like Studio K like we do every week, but I'm recovering from a surgery yesterday. I've had some nerve work done on this arm. I'm still inked, still got the dressings on it. I'm a little out of sorts, and to be honest, running late, so we're not going to have the cool video of the movement in the background because real estate is such a deep subject. Even when we bring to you these type of productions, whether they be reels or they be this kind of thing, YouTube, we try to keep up with technology. You can't fall behind and you can't jump too far out in front. And one of the things that the psychologists tell us is if I have a static background like you see behind me, that if I'm particularly boring because I'm bringing you economic news and things of this nature and I'm not super exciting, that my static background makes it even more boring. So they tell us we need to have a little bit of movement every so many seconds, and we try to listen to what the expert people say. The problem is, as human beings, we think, well, if a little bit's good, a lot more has got to be even more better, as Grandpa used to say. It'd be more better. Kind of like stimulating the economy with the Congress or a central bank. We want about 2% inflation, which is going to be the last piece I wind up with. A little bit of inflation helps just keep the markets and everything gelling. Too much inflation cripples us, and too little inflation or deflation is a bad sign that our economy is crashing. So we want a Goldilocks of about 2%. We'll see if that message is carrying on. But first, I want to point out how important it is to learn from history. It's okay to swing for the fences, but you have to have your common sense about you. So let's look at this. If you like this content, please go to CallDelToSell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you. New Coke. How many of you people know about New Coke? Coca-Cola Company. This is on the website. I'll put the link over in the description of the status chat over on the YouTube page where you find the status chat. But New Coke, see, it says right there, it's new. It's got to be new. How many of you didn't know about New Coke? Because maybe it was before your time. Or maybe it was way before your time and you can't remember stuff like me sometime. Well, New Coke was a great experiment. It was that we had someone in Coca-Cola said, we are the biggest market share in the soft drink area. And Pepsi is number 2, so maybe we can go get some of that Pepsi money if we taste more like Pepsi. The problem was, well, this was incredibly stupid because if you might get one new customer, but if you get one new customer and it costs you 5 of your old customers, your loyal customers, that's a bad swap. That's spending $1 to pay 5. Doesn't make sense in business. Businesses work to try to grow and expand, right? All right, look at this. Pretty Coke stayed with the same colors, but they called it New Coke, and they tried to make it taste like Pepsi. And this is the Coca-Cola telling you this, the Coca-Cola Company. New Coke, the most memorable marketing blunder ever. Well, I think that has been outdone as of last year, the history of New Coke. But look how Coke responded, how a smart, successful company handles things when they try something that doesn't work. You change and you put it back like it was. And hear this line, to hear some tell it, April 23rd, 1985 was a day that will live in marketing infamy. Now, I know about this because when I was working on the MBA, we studied this blunder in business school. And we saw how do you've got to innovate, you got to keep churning, you got to keep doing new stuff. But if you step out and you face plant on the sidewalk, you get back up real quick and you don't do that again. You change your direction. That's what Coke did. Coke introduced that new formula and people hated it. They alienated their key demographic. They swung for the fences, and that's, if you're gonna go out, swing for the fences. Swing like you're gonna hit. Don't try to hit a ball. Don't try to dribble it or just dribble it to get to first base. But swing for the fences. Coca-Cola Company introduced the reformulated Coca-Cola, often referred to as New Coke. Why is it referred to as New Coke? Because that's what they printed on the can. They wanted the new and improved. Marking the first formula change in 99 years. It's been working for 99 years. They're still number 1, and they pull a bonehead move by trying to feel cute. Hey, I'm feeling cute today. Maybe I'll ruin a soft drink company. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But they ruin it. and it didn't work very well. They quickly responded to it. Instead, the Coca-Cola company intended to re-energize its Coca-Cola brand by making it new. Just made them mad. Look how long it lasted right here. The return of the original formula Coca-Cola on July 11th of 1985 put the cap on a 79-day experiment that flopped. It revolutionized the soft drink industry, transformed the Coca-Cola company that stands today as testimony to the power of taking intelligent risk when they don't quite work out as intended. Now, let me tell you what happened not long after that, because this was also part of that same class, that same case study. People do like something new. They like new ways of doing things, but you don't destroy the old ways. Like a lot of people like buying a car, and they like going down to the car lot and walking around looking at the colors and smelling the new materials and all that kind of stuff. Some people might like to buy it from a vending machine or do it online. How do you accommodate the most people is you keep what you have and gain some new without destroying what you had. We give you options, opportunities, and we get it to more people, and we show it to you. Coca-Cola failed in this endeavor right here. People hated it because the new ones didn't like it and the old ones didn't like the new. So they just lost out all the way around. Maybe you can think of some other times there's a company out there decided they were going to reinvent the wheel and destroyed themselves, kicked themselves in the butt because they didn't learn from history. History is boring. Economics is boring, but they help us with our life when we learn from the past. There we have New Coke. To give you something, because we have to keep ourselves topical, Cracker Barrel is in the news. Let's see what a disaster this has been. Cracker Barrel. We're going to talk about supply and demand just a little bit. Cracker Barrel to hike prices after sales drop. CEO admits chain is just not as relevant. Oh my goodness. That is something. Your leader is always your head cheerleader, but it's also the brain. The body follows where the head goes. You've got to be smart if you're sitting on the top. All right? Don't say your company is not relevant. Say something other. We're modernizing, we're taking it in new, we're bringing it up, but you don't do what Coke did, which is throw away your bread and potatoes. Now, when we look at this, what does this also tell you? Cracker Barrel to hike prices after sales drop. Have you watched the last video where we looked at McDonald's is having a problem? They raise their prices too fast, too high. People drop off. They can't afford to buy anymore. So the less that they buy, the more revenue that they fall behind on, and so they want to raise the prices even more and more. You can only raise the price until you have what we call destructive demand. You actually run more people off. Charging an extra 25 cents costs you maybe 35, 50 or dollars worth of money. You only raise the price as long as they can stand it, and then your demand trips off. Well, let's look how disastrous the Cracker Barrel is right now. All right, let me bring it down. I think it's to this section right here. Cracker Barrel, by the way, is out of Lebanon. If you're not familiar, if you're a transplant, Tennessee-based company said that its third quarter revenue came in at $817 million, down 2% compared to the same period last year. So year over year, it was down 2%. But let's look at what we have right here. The year previous to that, the previous year over year was 7.4%. So in 2 years, they have come down from 7.4 to 2%. That is a 9.4% swing. There's something wrong. There's something going on with this. Now, what they came up with was to try to pull a new Coke. It didn't work in that other adult beverage. It didn't work there. New Coke didn't work for New Coke. You never destroy what's working. You just add to what's working. You don't undo it. Do you remember the Zillow and the iBuyers trying to basically say it'd be like taking car lots, and we're not going to have any traditional car lots. We're all going to go to the Carvana, and we're all going to order it from a vending machine offline. That's not enough. There's not enough interest in that to keep the whole market going, so you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But the solution to this is much like what the government has done. They're deciding that they're going to spend even more money. The problem isn't doing what they do well. They're going to raise the cost of their food to the public, and they're going to start buying out. So it's going to be even less homemade food in the future than it is today at a higher price. How do you think that's going to work out for Cracker Barrel? The investors don't much care for it. Let's look at how the stock is being hit by this. Right here, the CEO says, whoops, slid. Cracker Barrel says it's dropped because they weren't relevant anymore. There we are. People don't like the food, so what did they do? They brought in some fake sausage, the Incredible sausage. That didn't help. And they're going to make the store brighter, add lighting, and they're going to replace the wooden chairs and from the booth to banquet. So here's the thing. What are they in business for? Are they in business because of the lighting or the chairs, or are they in business to sell food? So they're concentrating on the fluff and nonsense and not concentrating on their core competency, which is having a restaurant and selling food. Let me reposition this page and we'll get to the stock problem that they have, because the investors and the people who own it aren't buying it. It says Cracker Barrel also culled this menu of 20 items, so that's even better. So what do? You have less variety, you have higher prices, you completely change the whole character of the place. What's not to love, right? Well, here it is. Since the start of the year, that's 2024, Cracker Barrel stock has fallen by nearly 40%. 40%. So what did we not learn from New Coke in 1980 flipping 5? New Coke decided they were going to change. They weren't getting the growth. They were still number one, but they weren't growing as fast as they wanted to. I guess they got a little bit greedy. They came out with New Coke, ticked off all the old people, didn't capture the new people, and it tanked. Didn't take them about 3 months. They switched that up real quick. So that's some smartness. You swing for the fences, it didn't work out. Now, what I didn't tell you is they came up with the idea, the next swing for the fences in the soft drink industry was bringing bottled water to market, where you could just basically have the convenience of buying a bottle of water. Well, internal to the drink manufacturers, they said this is either going to be another flop or a genius move, because we sell our Cokes, our drinks, or Royal Crowns, or whatever the soft drinks were, the Pepsis, and we put sugar and caffeine and flavors and colors in it, and it costs us money, and you're going to charge more money for water, something they can draw out of the tap. If you can do that, you've earned your bonus. And somebody did it, and it worked, because they didn't stop selling the soft drinks. They added to. There's a difference between adding something to and destroying the main thing. So here we have, in 6 months, they've lost 40% of their stock value, and their solution is going to be putting in new lights, changing furniture, and spending half of their net worth, about $700, I think it was $1 million, to try to become more relevant. How about you just make food better? They're decreasing the menu items. They're buying more stuff pre-prepared. It's less home cooked, and they're charging more money. What's not to love? It brings us to our closing presentation. This is from the Federal Reserve of Kansas City. It covers the areas of Denver, Oklahoma City, and Omaha, Nebraska. These are regional banks. You're probably familiar with the Federal Reserve in St. Louis, because we go to the FRED, the Federal Reserve Economic Data, I think is what that stands for. And then we go to Atlanta, because they do the GDP now, the modeling and the predictions. Each one of these Fed of the districts does a different thing. So we're looking at Economic Bulletin, and this is where we're beginning to see the whole plan crack. Despite high inflation, longer-term inflation expectations remain well anchored. I'll translate that. They're beginning to crawfish on us. Because remember, it was the printing of the money that caused the inflation, that heated up the economy, supply chain issues, houses went through the roof. Houses are built with stuff, they're filled with stuff. If it were to burn down, blow over, or flood out, it's going to cost more to replace the house, so your house goes kind of up with inflation or the devaluation of the dollar. If you own a house, you kind of have a hedge against inflation that way, but your mortgage will go, even if the rate didn't change, because as inflation makes your house worth more, your insurance is going to be more expensive, your taxes are going to be more expensive. Now throw on top of this what you already know, a higher mortgage rate, and you can price a house out of reach for some people. There will always be ones who have enough, but we're hurting the poor most. Inflation causes more pain to the poor people than it does the middle class, and more the middle class than the upper class, because the upper class, financially speaking, they have assets that go up with, that ride up with, as the inflation, as the dollar goes down, they have something. So we're hurting the poor every time we spend money that we don't have. Now, what is the theory of stimulus on the economy? Well, it's just like anything else. If I can give $1 out in an area, and if I can get 2 in return, that was $1 well spent. So if a government can spend a little bit of money into the economy and get growth, get more, say if we have 2% inflation, but we have a 4% increase in our gross domestic product and our gross domestic income, then spending 2% more, if it gets us 4 in return, that makes sense. But what happens, like Cracker Barrel, if you cut the number of choices and you raise the cost of it, you're going to start cutting into the number of people that can buy. And the economy is beginning to crash a little bit. Remember what we were saying here, what Chairman Powell has said all year since December of last year. We're looking to cut rates at least 3 times, and now they're backing out of that, and they've kind of got to, well, we'll try to get some toward the last half of this year. Look what the Federal Reserve, Kansas City, says the Federal Reserve's long-run 2% inflation target is intended to prevent periods of high inflation from becoming embedded in longer-term inflation expectations. That's your positive outlook. We've been selling coulda, woulda, shoulda, maybes. We've been selling since December. Chairman Powell has been saying, help us around the corner, keep spending, keep things going, keep the economy going. Stock market, the bond market's been doing well because people were ready for that to come, but we're running out of money. The average American is deep in debt on their credit cards. We're starting to see some default rates on cars and credit cards, and it's getting tight, and our food isn't getting any cheaper. We're hurting because of inflation that's caused by the government spending the money, and it's not getting any better. So now we're coming to that split point. We have to get inflation under control so that we can lower the target rate, so that we can lower the credit card rate, so that we can lower the mortgage rate, so we can bring it back down towards a normal rate. What we see here is we've already started walking back the expectation that we were going to get a rate in May, that in June or July. It looks like we may not get a rate drop yet. And what they're telling you here very delicately is we're not giving up on the 2%. But we're not going to get there anytime soon. Which means what if you want to buy a house? It's suggesting that even the Fed realizes that inflation is going to continue to go out of control for a longer period of time. Although they're not giving up on it, inflation is going to be a problem. And that's going to keep prices higher on the cost of stuff and building stuff. And of course, that would logically get down to your house, what your house is going to cost you. And here I've got this zoomed in to get this chart, because chart 1, inflation has remained above the Fed's longer run. Remember when the Gen Yer was screaming in the car how the boomers ruined their life? This is pretty well much where our 2%, we've been below this. This is where our economy is trying to run, at around 2%, somewhere around here, a little bit above, until they printed the money. We had a shortage from the lockdowns. Then we had actual true inflation, cost of living first, between 20 and 21, and about 21 to 22 was when we had the inflation, and we're bringing the rate down, but we never got the dollars back. And what the Fed is beginning to tell you is they can't say it's going to be bad because the markets won't like it, the stock markets won't like that, but they can't keep promising you a carrot if you're not getting it, because you'll get discouraged. So they're beginning to let you in on the secret that we're probably going to have inflation continuing. And if we get job losses and we have the high inflation, that's not going to be a good place to be. And what causes it? Spending the money that we don't have. It's from not learning our lessons from the past. It's not learning, because we've had inflation before, we've had recessions before. Those who don't learn from the past repeat it. Those who didn't learn from New Coke are repeating the same mistakes. So what do we got to do? We've got to figure out how to get you out of rent into real property where you have a chance to pay, because you're going to pay somebody for shelter. Right? You're going to pay either in rent, or you're going to have to buy a house or someplace. And if inflation continues to go up, it's probably going to mean that things aren't going to get great on your mortgage rate anytime soon, or the price is coming down. So what are you waiting for? I know this is not the message you want to hear, but it's what the data says. Let's look at that chart again. Where is this last tail going? Is it going down or is it going up? So the only thing that's going to bring the rates down, if this is tailing up, is if we have terrible employment problems. And hopefully we won't have that. So let's get to our numbers and wrap this up. Hello, I'm Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, CallDelToSell. That's one L and Del, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout, and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. Last week, which would have been precisely 7 days ago, actually I think I did it on Thursday because Friday was taken, 5/23 of 24. We had 20,239 in our opportunities. What's on the market or coming soon. That was down over the previous week. We had 4564 in the under contract still showing. That went up over the previous. And we went from 22% energy ratio from the week prior to 23%. This week, 531 of 24. We have 20,811 opportunities. That's up a little bit over the previous week. We have 4381, which is significantly down over the previous week on the under contract still showing. And our energy ratio fell 2%, 2 complete percent in 1 week. Market is shifting. We've been holding out for a year and a half now, looking for prices and things to get better, and we're still getting hit with inflation. And inflation is going to probably, can't guarantee it, probably going to support higher prices. The only way prices fall down is if the demand really trips off. So how much are you gambling on 0.25% on a mortgage rate if inflation continues to stay at 3% and above? And just in case we haven't got this image burned in your head, here we have all of this period of time until 2020 when they spent all the money after the COVID. Here we have supply chain issues to about 21, and the rest of this has been inflation. The rate of inflation as it kind of came back down, we're still gaining above this flat line. But we're here. Give us a holler. You know where to find us. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your frenemies to look at the information. Maybe we can get some good conversation going. But it is what it is. We can't continue to spend money we don't have. If you've got a credit card getting maxed out, I feel you. Our nation's credit card is getting maxed out, and there's a piper that's going to have to be paid. Appreciate you. We'll see you in a week.